Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, she went from rapper to Muslim, and her mother won't accept it.
She thinks you're going to become a terrorist. You haven't seen your daughter in a year. You haven't even looked at her.
She looks nothing like my daughter.
Is this another phase she's going through?
Before you wanted to be Dutch and move to Amsterdam and only get tulips for flowers.
Or has she found her destiny?
You think they're grooming her into a cult.
That's exactly what I believe.
Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
I hate to see people suffering, and you've heard long enough.
Stand by, Dr. Phil.
I'm going to get you the help that you need.
5, 4.
This is going to be a changing day in your life. This is Kristen, also known as MC Router. She's an internationally recognized rapper who's notorious for being promiscuous and chugging a case of beer on stage at every performance. This is Abby. She's a devout Muslim, speaks fluent Arabic, doesn't drink alcohol, abstains from sex, and prays 5 times a day. Now, it may seem like they have nothing in common, right? Well, they do. Actually, they are the same person. Almost 2 years ago, Kristen converted to Islam and changed her name to Abby, actually Abada. Her mother, Darlene, says Kristen, who she refuses to call Abby, has not only turned her back on her family with her new Islamic beliefs, but on America as well. She's worried her daughter may turn into a terrorist. Take a look.
My daughter has quit speaking to me because I don't accept her religion.
I grew up as a Southern Baptist in Texas. I reverted to Islam in 2012. I changed my name to Abida a week after I became Muslim. It means worshiper of God. My mother, she refuses to call me anything but Kristen.
When I see Kristen being Muslim, I think about Al-Qaeda, terrorist bombings, Osama bin Laden. I never hear anything positive about them, ever.
My mother is very ignorant. She has like no qualms about being racist.
I have gay friends, a lot of gay friends. I know they have some problems sometimes with gay bashing and everything, but you've never heard of a gay man getting another gay man to strap a bomb to his chest and walk in a mall.
I'm Muslim and not all Muslims are terrorists.
Kristen's been totally brainwashed by these people. She got rid of her clothes. She only wears the scarf, the long dresses.
I choose to wear hijab because it promotes modesty and it's pleasing to Allah.
She has taken everything American out of her house and replaced it with Saudi Arabia flags. She goes to the stores that sell the food, the kind of rice and bread and everything to eat. That's all she eats basically now.
I love the Saudi coffee so much.
I think that they have a hidden agenda for her because of the way things are progressing so quickly. She said they buy me expensive stuff. They have lambs slaughtered for her and bring to her a whole lamb, like chopped up, for her to eat. I mean, that's like a ritual to them. I pray a lot that she's going to see what she's doing and step out of it because I've lost my daughter to this religion.
Well, Abby says becoming Muslim is a much safer choice than her previous profession.
Kristen used to be a pretty famous rapper.
I got popular enough doing the MC Router stuff that someone made a Wikipedia for me. I got invited to play shows in Holland, in Europe. I did a West Coast tour, played Whiskey A Go Go, where the Doors and Guns N' Roses have performed.
I'm gonna destroy every part of my PC.
I was really proud of her. I would tell her all the time, Kristen, I think this is what you were meant to do.
When I was performing as MC Router, I came very close to being an alcoholic. My shtick for my stage performance was that people would bring me beer. My sets would be an hour, and I could knock out 24 beers in a set. People came to see me get drunk.
She was never an alcoholic or even near an alcoholic at all. And I would know because I've been in the medical field for my entire life. I pick up on drugs, alcohol. I work for a treatment center, and I pick up on it really fast. But she posted a lot of it on the internet, some very provocative things on the internet.
On stage, it was very vulgar and R-rated. I would make out with random fans on stage. I would spit beer on people in the front row. I was sleeping with random fans or club owners, and I'm shocked that nothing bad happened to me that could have from that. After I became Muslim, I had to stop drinking. I had to stop having promiscuous sex. I spend my time reading the Quran and praying on a constant basis. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. MC Router is the complete opposite of who I am today.
I believe that her being a rapper is much, much safer than her being a Muslim. No one's going to attack her or coerce her to do something she doesn't want to do because she's rapping and having a rapper's lifestyle.
Now, Darlene hasn't seen her daughter in over a year, so she's coming out now. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Right here.
Sorry.
Wow, that is so interesting. You haven't seen your daughter in a year, and I actually stepped way out to greet you so I could get out of the way so you could see your daughter for the first time in a year, and you haven't looked at her yet.
I can't.
You haven't seen her in a year. This is your child, and she's right in front of you.
She doesn't look like my daughter.
Really?
I mean, it hurts me to see her like this because she looks nothing like my daughter. She's changed a lot.
How do you feel? Did you find that odd?
Yeah, it's really strange.
That you haven't seen her in a year and she comes out and won't look at you till I make her?
I'm the same person inside. It's just I've changed things in my life for the better. So she should be happy. I think any parent would be happy if their kid went from drinking and partying and sleeping around to being a more mature, not drinking, healthier person.
What is it that she's doing now that you object to?
She's changed her whole life. She does not see any of her old friends that are, I would say, American. She only hangs out with the Arab community.
And you're saying you don't want to be around those people because you're afraid that there's going to be some type of terrorist activity.
Well, I think unintentionally. With her only hanging around with them, and they give her a lot of attention. They buy her expensive gifts. It's like they're just like bringing her more and more in.
You think they're grooming her into a cult?
Exactly. That's exactly what I believe.
That's what you think. She's being groomed.
Yes, especially with the skills that she has about the computers. She's a very good shooter, guns. She speaks 3 languages.
And you say she drives around with an I Heart Saudi Arabia sticker on her car, and you're afraid somebody's going to, like, shoot her or
Absolutely.
run off the road. All right, well, here's what she says. She says that you have turned your back on America. You've taken down the American flags, now only Saudi Arabia flags. She says that you say Islam is 110% conviction where you need to be in your beliefs, and she's concerned you've gone too far. What do you say to her about her fears? She thinks you're going to become a terrorist. I mean, are you looking to be a terrorist?
No, I mean, I understand what kind of information she gets about Islam based on the media and movies and TV shows and things like that. But that's the problem. She won't take time to look at what is really Islam and how peaceful the religion is.
You think somebody's going to hurt her, or you think she's going to get swept up in some movement and do something terrible?
Exactly. That's what I believe.
Is it one or both?
It's both. Really.
So you really equate Muslims with terrorists?
Well, I do, and I'm not a stupid person. I mean, when I look things up on the internet, I'm not looking for the bad things I do. I'm just looking at general things, you know. And there's more bad things that I see than there are good things that I see. I think it's a cult. I think they bring people into it because she's been given so much attention from these people.
All right, well, coming up, is Abby just going through a phase? Darlene says you wouldn't believe some of the other phases her daughter has gone through. Well, let's find out what those are when we come back.
When Kristen finds something that she's interested in, she goes in full throttle. She went into the military. She started swing dancing. Then she got interested in Dutch people. She learned Dutch. She speaks Dutch fluently. I think she's lost her identity.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil. His wife hit him with the car, but she claims she's the victim.
She says you choked her, kidnapped her. Are you saying none of this happened?
I gave you my word.
Bizarre behavior
Get off my car. I have to go to work.
and accusations.
You've had 6 restraining orders against you.
It makes it look like this guy's an abuser.
You seem to get real defensive really quick.
With a shocking discovery.
Melissa went missing this morning.
That's tomorrow.
After I finish school in a year, inshallah, I plan to move to Saudi Arabia. The Saudi government requires a lot of medical exams, a lot of legal paperwork, and I've done all of that. I already have all my ducks in a row for any time that I want to go over there. I don't plan or see myself coming back to the States.
That was Abby, who says she cannot wait to finish school so she can move to Saudi Arabia and never look back. Now, her mother, Darlene, says she is terrified her daughter may be brainwashed by her new friends, and that she prays this new religion is just another one of her many, many phases. Take a look.
When Kristen finds something that she's interested in, she goes in full throttle. She got into being goth, and then she went into the military. She started swing dancing. Then she became a rapper. Then she got interested in Dutch people. She learned Dutch. She speaks Dutch fluently. She changed her name to Crystal. I think it's Crystal. It's Krisje. Her car was covered in I Love Dutch Boys. She went to specialty places and bought all Dutch food. When Kristen converted to being a Muslim, I didn't think too much about it because she's gone through so many phases. But my worst fear right now is that this Muslim phase that she's going through is not a phase. Assalamu alaikum. And that she's going to do whatever she has to do to get to Saudi Arabia so she can believe that she's really Muslim. I think she's lost her identity.
Okay, so she says that you got into swing dancing. Did you like convert to that? I mean, is that what she's saying?
I guess. I mean, I don't know if swing dancing is a cult, but
And in the military,
yeah.
was that a phase?
It was, but only because I just wasn't fit for military life. That wasn't me.
And then music and rapping,
Yeah.
you just all into that.
Yeah. But the thing about it is that these things aren't really phases. I think they're experiences, and I still speak Dutch on a daily basis. I talk with all my Dutch friends.
So now you want to be Muslim and you want to move to Saudi Arabia. Before you wanted to be Dutch and move to Amsterdam and only get tulips for flowers. Are you kind of a all or none sort of girl?
I'm all or nothing. I mean, whatever it is, I'm all or nothing.
If you go to Saudi Arabia, you understand that there are different cultural mores and folkways there, right? That women have a different role there.
Yeah, I mean, women can't drive, which I would love to be chauffeured around. You know, I hate driving. I mean, there's a lot of less freedom for women, but I don't mind that because people from Saudi Arabia, they come here and they get to have freedom. They get to do whatever they want. But me, I've already done everything, right? I've already went through all these phases or whatever, and now I'm ready to straighten up my life.
Well, here are the rules for women that we've been able to determine from research and talking to folks. You can't drive.
Okay.
You can't be alone with an unrelated man who is not a sanctioned relative.
Okay.
And you don't have any relatives over there. So that means you cannot be in the presence of any men alone.
Unless I have like a wali or something, like someone on my behalf to be my guardian, like an imam or something who can act as my wali.
You can't travel alone without the approval of the male guardian.
Yeah.
You can't sponsor a non-Saudi husband. You can't visit a graveyard. You can't attend Friday prayers in a mosque unless there is a women's section.
That's to protect the women, though. That's why we dress modestly, so men don't look at us in a sexual way. So when they tell you can't go to the mosque and pray, it's better for the women to pray at home, actually.
What is your tattoo on your hand here?
It says Geek Life.
Geek life?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean?
like, like gangsters, they get like thug life, because they're thug. Well, I was on tour and I wasn't very thug, so I was like, well, I'm a geek. I like do computers and stuff, so I don't know. I was stupid. Really young.
She also has a Christian tattoo. What do you think a Muslim's going to do when they see a Christian tattoo on her?
Yeah, will there be problems with that?
The Islamic community in my city, they reject me a lot. I get talked to pretty harshly by Muslims in my community because of my tattoos. The only problem is that I got them a long time ago, and they're really expensive to remove. And I've tried to save money to remove them. I just can't, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's really expensive.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. Is this a legitimate, heartfelt, spiritual conversion, or is Abby rebelling against her family? Should Darlene learn to accept her daughter's new faith? Put yourself in this situation. If you were the mother and this was your daughter, what would your questions be? What would you be thinking?
My mother takes my life event, my new religion, like I'm punishing her. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My religion has absolutely nothing to do with my mother and doesn't hurt her in any way. But for some reason, she chooses to keep playing the victim.
A former Disney worker says she was harassed at work because of her Muslim headscarf. She claims when she wouldn't remove it, she was fired.
People in my city do assume that I'm a terrorist just because I'm wearing like all black and a scarf on my head. I go to grocery stores and people are like, hey, go back to your own country. And I'm like, hey, man, I was born and raised in Texas. I think the general public is very racist towards Muslims.
Well, Abby says since converting from Southern Baptist to Islam, she's experienced racial profiling. Her mother, Darlene, says that's what she gets for wearing her religious garments in public. Her mother also says she is the perfect recruit for any terrorist organization. She says her daughter's smart, fluent in 4 languages, a sharpshooter with the military training, and easily manipulated. Has anyone tried to influence you in some way to be disruptive to the American way of life or capitalism or?
No, I don't. I've never even had a conversation about any sort of politics or anything with any of my Muslim or Middle Eastern friends.
How do you feel about America?
Well, it's a good place. The education here is really good. I really don't like America that much. I mean, I appreciate the freedoms here and stuff, but it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, what about it bothers you?
I don't know. I think I like being around like old culture and traditions, and I think America is just kind of a big melting pot, and there's not a whole lot of tradition here. There's not a whole lot of culture. I mean, when I was over in Holland, you see old buildings that have been there since God knows when, and the people have like coffee breaks at 10 a.m. every day, and everything is just like very traditional. And I don't know, I'm just bored here, I guess. I mean, who knows? I'm not closed-minded. I could move somewhere and then miss America. I mean, I don't know. I have to experience that.
Well, Darlene admits she doesn't know much about the Islam religion, so we invited Adina Lekovich, the Director of Policy and Programming from the Muslim Public Affairs Council, to join us. And also joining Adina is a member of our staff, Alden, who was raised in a Muslim home. Adina, let me start with you. There are huge misconceptions about Muslims, correct?
I think sometimes politics and culture and religion get swirled together, and we get a misunderstanding out of things. And I'm a mother. I can understand where Darlene is coming from and wanting to protect her child and know where her child is coming from. But when we learn about faiths and other cultures, primarily through television screens and film screens, we're going to get a distorted picture of what's actually going on, when the truth is that Islam is actually an Abrahamic faith. We believe, just like Jews and Christians, in all the same prophets. We believe in God. We believe in the Day of Judgment. Truly, Islam is about believing in God and doing good in this world towards all people, not just Muslims, but serving all people.
And you are not as covered as she is. Why is that?
Because the hijab, or any form of covering your hair or your body, is a symbol of modesty. And every woman has the right to choose in her own way how she practices that. And in fact, the vast majority of Muslim women in the world don't wear any kind of scarf.
Now, Alden, you've been raised by a Muslim family here in the U.S., right?
Yeah, I'm first generation here. So my parents left Lebanon in the 80s and raised me here.
Yeah.
People usually think if you're Islamic, you're anti-American. But there's so many Muslim Americans here, and we've assimilated into the culture. Like she said, not everyone would wear the headscarf, and my parents, my mother doesn't. No one in my family does. And if anything, you know, the moral values they've taught me is that of empathy, that of understanding, and that of just seriously just putting others before you and kind of not underestimating another person's battle. And that's kind of like the underlying statement there. It's not so much of like aggressiveness or what everyone else tries to, you know, slide it into.
All right, just to be clear, people that would equate Muslim and Islam with terrorism would be making a huge mistake and focusing on a mini fraction of that population. True?
Certainly. Again, the vast majority of Muslims, 99.9% of Muslims are on the good and straight path, who are concerned about getting their kids to school on time. There are fringe elements in any group who cast a bad shadow on the rest of them. And we have, as a Muslim, I'm against extremists like anybody else, and that goes against my faith. And that's what the vast majority of Muslims are all about.
Are you moving to Saudi Arabia?
I plan to. I've sent in some applications to some universities over there.
Look, you understand she's an adult, right?
Yes.
So you can't dictate what she does.
Absolutely.
You can only influence what she does. Have a dialogue with your daughter.
She won't.
Yes, she will.
When I try to talk to her, I want to learn about, she doesn't want.
That's not true.
It is true. That's why we're not talking.
But see, 80% of all questions are statements in disguise. And an awful lot of your questions are disguised statements, accusations, allegations, and indictments of her thoughts and decisions. And you need to realize that's not working for you. She's making a decision you don't like, so you've cut off communications with her. Don't do that.
Not necessarily true. She's also cut.
It doesn't matter who.
Yeah,
okay,
both of us.
let's blame her.
No, not.
Okay,
no.
let's do that. Let's
No,
say
both
she's
of us.
100% responsible for it.
Okay.
Fix it.
Okay, that's what we're saying.
Open this line of communication. Okay? You'll do that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, coming up, a woman who says she can relate to Abby, but says she was discriminated against because of her race rather than her religion. She was part of the biggest and most controversial court case in the past decade. We're going to hear what she says really happened in the deliberation room of that case when we come back.
I was the only minority juror on the George Zimmerman case. I felt pressured when I was in the deliberation, felt that I was bullied. In my heart, I believe George Zimmerman is guilty of killing Trayvon Martin.
I'm going to support the Trayvon family for life.
We're here for the Trayvon Martin Foundation, here for Trayvon Martin's parents, Tracy and Sabrina.
This is the second annual Trayvon Martin Foundation Remembrance Week. This weekend commemorates his birthday.
It's important that we make sure that we have not forgotten about what has happened with Trayvon Martin and other kids. We want to make sure that we help other families.
Well, it's been just over 2 years, if you can believe it, since unarmed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was shot and killed by George Zimmerman on a dark, rainy night. Through the Trayvon Martin Foundation, Trayvon's parents recently hosted a peace walk and dinner honoring those who have shown their support. Now, Trayvon's case triggered a racial divide in our country, and many cases have since been compared to what happened.
The Florida man charged with killing a teenager after an argument over loud music took the stand today. The case is being compared to the shooting death of Trayvon Martin.
I have every right of self-defense, and I took it.
Michael Dunn has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. He's accused of killing 17-year-old Jordan Davis outside a Jacksonville convenience store in 2012.
So you're not gonna kill me, you son of a I shot.
The Charlotte NAACP is asking that Officer Randall Carrick be charged with murder for the death of Jonathan Farrell.
It is completely devastating. That officer shot me 10 times.
Chestnut says Farrell had his hands up and was not threatening as he moved toward police.
That is murder.
A well-known civil rights group says the killing of a 13-year-old Milwaukee boy is much like Florida's Trayvon Martin case.
75-year-old John Spooner told police he shot Darius when the boy was taking out the trash. The coalition feels Spooner calculated a cold-blooded killing, even worse than Trayvon's accused killer, George Zimmerman.
With news stories being paralleled to George Zimmerman on a regular basis, my next guest says it's impossible to not think about her role in his acquittal every single day.
We now have a jury selected for the George Zimmerman trial.
The jurors are all women, 5 white and 1 minority who may be Hispanic or black.
After serving as a juror on the George Zimmerman case, my life has been ruined. I was sequestered for 3 weeks. I lost my job when I came back. I lost my freedom. I had reporters sitting in front of my house. The neighbors started looking at me different. I got a death threat on social media. Said that I was gonna feel the same pain that Trayvon Martin's mother felt. I am now homeless and jobless. I feel like I'm a victim. When I was on the jury, I was treated different. I was the only minority juror. One of the jurors even made fun of the way I spoke. I felt pressured when I was in the deliberation. Felt that I was bullied. In my heart, I believe George Zimmerman is guilty of killing Trayvon Martin. He knew he was losing, and so he shot him.
Were the injuries on Mr. Zimmerman's back of his head consistent with someone doing this?
The law states that he was protecting himself. We had to follow the law.
We, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty. So say we all.
I believe that no one should punish me. I wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. I just don't want people to judge me because I didn't kill anybody.
Well, Maddie is the only juror from the case to speak out publicly and reveal her identity. And also joining Maddie is legal analyst and attorney Lisa Bloom, who has written a new book that is, you cannot put this down, Suspicion Nation, the inside story of the Trayvon Martin injustice and why we continue to repeat it. An absolute compelling read. Lisa, it's good to see you. Maddie, thanks for being here. There were 6 women on this jury.
Yes.
And you were the only minority, correct?
Yes.
And the jury brought back a not guilty verdict, and that haunts you to this day.
I'm a godly person. If you kill somebody, you're guilty. It's sad to say that because of a law that was written and it was described to me, that I had to follow this law against my own will. In my heart, I knew that he was guilty. But I couldn't use my heart. I had to use the law.
And so you voted not guilty when you felt in your mind and heart that he was guilty.
Yes.
You know, Lisa, did she have a choice in the way she voted here?
She didn't. And Maddie's very brave to speak out in the way that she is. I blame the prosecution in the state of Florida. I go through in the book the 6 biggest blunders they made. And putting it all together, they failed to connect the law and the facts that they had to give jurors like Maddie and the other jurors who wanted to convict a roadmap to conviction. The prosecutors made mistake after mistake in this case. I'll give you one of the biggest ones. George Zimmerman showed on a videotape that his gun was holstered behind him inside his pants. And he says he was lying on his back with Trayvon Martin on top of him, straddling him at the moment that Trayvon Martin saw the gun, reached for the gun, and threatened to kill Zimmerman. And Zimmerman says, at that point, I had to pull the gun and shoot in self-defense. The problem with that story is, unless Trayvon Martin had X-ray vision, there is no way he could have seen through George Zimmerman's body to a gun holstered behind him. The prosecution inexplicably failed to argue that, failed to give the jury that information that they had on a videotape for over a year. There are many people in America who found this verdict very unsatisfying, and I was one of them, having watched the trial.
You say that you were bullied and teased and discriminated against as a juror.
One of the other jurors Every time I would say something like, I said ramen noodle, she would say, you don't even know how to say that right. I had said another word, and she was like, oh my God, did you hear Maddie say? And it was just a constant, I felt like we were in high school. I really took this situation, this case, I really took it very serious. And out of all this, I feel like it became a mockery, because when I came out of this, it became that I was the bad guy. I got people telling me, you could have done something, you could have said something, you could have been there. And I've tried everything within a year to change my life, to see what I could have done. But I shouldn't be punished for Trayvon Martin's death.
Well, let's take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about two really important things. I want to hear from Lisa, because according to her, the prosecution missed other critical evidence that could have gotten George Zimmerman convicted. We all want to know what that is. And then I want to talk to Maddie about what her life has been like since this verdict came back. We'll be right back.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil. His wife hit him with the car. It's a marriage of wild accusations.
You've had 6 restraining orders against you.
And bizarre behavior.
Get off my car.
That's tomorrow.
It's been 2 years since George Zimmerman shot and killed unarmed teen Trayvon Martin and walked out scot-free. Now, one person responsible for George's acquittal is jury member Maddie. Now, joining Maddie is legal analyst and attorney Lisa Bloom. She wrote a new book called Suspicion Nation, and this book really dissects this trial, the way the evidence came in and didn't come in. What happened in the jury room? Was it difficult to express your opinions in the jury room?
Yes.
Why?
When I first came in, I didn't see myself as different. But as the time of me being there for 3 weeks, I could tell that I was different. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's not just only by color. It's also by where I was raised. It was also by who you know, not the culture, but mostly I was younger, a little bit more younger than them, and I had younger kids. So a lot of them couldn't understand where I was coming from, so they didn't even take the time to get to know Maddie for who Maddie is. I just always felt that discomfort where I wasn't in the right place. They didn't make me feel too comfortable.
The other jurors?
The other jurors.
Did they take this seriously?
Depending on who was sitting down in the witness stand, just like the situation with Rachel Jeantel. You know, the first day everybody was stating that they couldn't understand her, they couldn't understand her talk, and I could hear them saying, you know, what is she saying? What kind of conversation is that? Like if she was from another planet, and I understood her. I understood everything she was saying, you know. And a lot of people are like, she shouldn't have been on the stand. She didn't say anything that we needed to hear.
Well, if y'all missed it, this was a key witness. Let's listen to this. We'll show you a clip so you know what we're talking about.
Prosecutors say Zimmerman racially profiled Martin and decided to take matters into his own hands.
But the defense insists it was Martin who injected race into the confrontation. The teenager was on the phone with his friend Rachel Jeantel and told her a man was following him.
I had asked him how the man looked like. He looked like a creepy cracker.
So it was racial, but it was because Trayvon Martin put race in this.
Defense attorneys claim Martin started the fight and Zimmerman shot in self-defense.
Rachel Jeantel was the most important prosecution witness because she was on the phone with Trayvon Martin in the moments leading up to his encounter and at the very beginning of his encounter with George Zimmerman. This is a 19-year-old girl. She made it very clear to everyone she did not want to be part of this high-profile case. She was absolutely terrified. And so what a good prosecutor would do would be go meet with her at her home, get her comfortable, another day have her come into the office, maybe on a third day take her to an empty courtroom, put her up on the witness stand, get her used to talking into microphones, which is very intimidating to a lot of people, go over the story with her. It turns out she had an underbite, Dr. Phil, so that made her hard to understand. Yeah, that's just a medical condition. It has nothing to do with credibility. The prosecutors never pointed that out. And so she came across to the jury as a person who really is kind of mumbling and muttering and has poor communication style. And to hear from Maddie that Rachel Jeantel was completely discounted by this jury is absolutely heartbreaking, because when you hear her story, as I do and as I tell it in the book, her story is Trayvon Martin was afraid of George Zimmerman. He thought he was creepy. He was trying to get away from him over and over again. When he did get away from him, he returned to a jokey, fun conversation he was having with Rachel. He was teasing her about doing her hair. He was asking about the All-Star game he wanted to get home in time to watch. This is not a homicidal killer who was lying in wait for George Zimmerman, which was Zimmerman's story. Unfortunately, that story never got to the jury because the prosecutors didn't prepare her effectively.
Did they make a strategic mistake in not focusing on the racial profiling aspect of this case?
They did. Now look, practically everybody in America is uncomfortable talking about race. But we have to talk about race sometimes. And the reason why this case got so much attention was because of the racial angle. Now, the defense in this case was very straightforward about race. They put on a young white woman who said she'd been the victim of a burglary by one or two African-American men. That was one of their last witnesses, right? Simple cross-examination the prosecution should have done. Do these guys have anything to do with Trayvon Martin? No. Okay, why are we hearing about them then? You know, to attribute the wrongs of two African-American men to all African-Americans is the very definition of racism. Trayvon Martin was a stranger to those burglars. He was not a burglar. He had no criminal record. And how dare the defense put on a witness like that? The prosecution should have been on their feet on cross-examination and ranting and raving about that in closing argument. They never did it.
Okay, Maddie is one of the jurors who voted not guilty and let George Zimmerman get off scot-free. How does she feel about how he has been acting since and what's been happening in her life? We'll be right back. Well, the book is Suspicion Nation, and legal analyst and author Lisa Bloom is here. She has written this book because she is outraged about what happened in the Trayvon Martin case. And joining us also is Maddie. Maddie is one of the jurors in this case. She's one of the jurors that voted that George Zimmerman was not guilty. But one of the things that I always pay attention to from my professional standpoint of psychology and human behavior is, with the passage of time, you don't have to speculate. You can measure. You can say, well, I wonder if this person is going to be okay or not. Well, you can speculate about, or with the passage of time, you can look and see what they do. Well, here's what George Zimmerman has done since the trial. July 31st, he was pulled over for speeding and had a gun in the glove box. August 22nd, he toured a gun-making factory, and on the 9th, his wife called 911 and said he was threatening her and her father with a gun. November 18th of 30, arrested and charged with aggravated assault, domestic violence, battery, and criminal mischief. After his girlfriend calls the police, those charges were dropped. January 30th, he agreed to a celebrity boxing match. And he even told CNN that he was a victim as well. Take a look.
Thoughts about the victim, Trayvon Martin?
I certainly was a victim when I was having my head bashed into the concrete and my nose broken and beaten.
Listening to the evidence, did it make you doubt yourself?
No.
Why not?
Faith. I know.
In yourself or in God?
No, God. I know that ultimately He's the only judge that I have to answer to. He knows what happened. I know what happened. So I leave it up to Him.
Well, there you have it. So he's a victim as well. Let's talk for just a minute about what the aftermath has been for you. You've received death threats.
Yes.
In what way, what form, what are people saying?
I had a threat where someone expressed to me that I was going to feel the same feelings and the same hurt that Trayvon Martin's mother feels. I got an 18-year-old son and a 20-year-old son. And that that I was going to feel the pain.
You've had to move. And where do you, I don't mean specifically, but do you have a house now? Are you homeless? What?
I live with a friend who's allowed me and 8 of us live in a 1-bedroom apartment right now.
8 of you.
It's just not fair. I shouldn't have to get blamed for someone else's actions.
All right, coming up, we ask our viewers at home if they thought they were racist. The answers might surprise you. We'll be right back. Want to know what's coming up on Dr. Phil? Visit our website and subscribe to our email newsletter. You'll get weekly updates, life strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else.
Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today.
We wanted to see how many of you at home admitted to being racially biased. Now, we just put this up this morning. We've had over 26,000 responses in just a couple of hours. Do you find yourself using racial profiling? 41% said yes, 59% said no. We then ask, are there times when you find yourself being suspicious of someone because they are a minority? 46% said yes, 54% said no. This is something that continues to plague America in general, and it continues to play a role in the courtrooms. True?
And this is one of the root problems in the Trayvon Martin case and the cases we continue to see. And I was fascinated to learn about the concept of implicit racial bias that I talk about in the book. So most of us think, I'm not racist, right? And consider that to be a horrible insult, which it is. But that doesn't get at the root problem, which is that we do have racial biases. We all walk around with them because we live in a culture with a lot of negative images of African Americans in particular. And there's a very clever test that you can take online to see whether you have implicit biases. You can't cheat the test. And when people take that test, about 70 to 80% of white Americans test that, yes, we have racial biases against African Americans. About 50% of African Americans have racial bias against African Americans. So the first step is sort of acknowledging that and understanding it. And then the second step is that we can move on from it. And that's the good news.
Lisa's book is Suspicion Nation. And this is a compelling read. It is something that I really think makes people think. I think it's really going to make you think. So her new book, Suspicion Nation, the inside story of the Trayvon Martin injustice, and more importantly, why we continue to repeat it, is on sale now, and everybody in the audience is going home with a copy of the book, so you all get one. One doctor that doesn't discriminate is the medical team at Doctor on Demand. I'd like to thank them for assisting some of my team in preparation for the show. If you at home want to have your own Doctor on Demand, this is an app that Jay and I actually created. You can go to Google App or the App Store and download the Doctor on Demand app. Then you can have your own Doctor on Demand. We'll see you next time. Lisa, thanks as always.
Thank you so much.
See you backstage. Dina, thank you.